Hi, this is American Perspective with Patriot Mom 007, and today we are joined by 4 gentlemen. I think you are going to want to pull up a chair, listen closely, and maybe take some notes, because this is information you probably have not heard before, and if you have, then this is going to be even better than that. So let me just start with introductions. This is Paul Rice. He's actually a friend of mine, and next to him is Daniel Wood. Some of you may know him. He had run for U.S. Congress, and we can talk about that a little bit later. And then to his left, we have Brian Steiner, and then to his left, we have Michael Schafer. So thank you all for joining us today. Appreciate it. And I'm going to have each gentleman go around and tell you a little bit about them, so you understand who is doing this work and why they're doing it. So they're not career politicians, and I want everybody to take note that a lot of citizens in Arizona, myself included, are working very hard in the ways that we can to make a difference with some of the issues that we've been experiencing as a state. So Paul, if you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, thank you, Noelle. My name is Paul Rice. I'm a 34-year citizen of Phoenix, Arizona, father of 3, and married. CPA here in the Valley, and really just an average guy. And we're all average people that have gotten involved in some very extraordinary things. So we're glad to be here. Thank you.
And Daniel?
Yes, my name is Daniel, Marine combat veteran, Operation Iraqi Freedom, prior law enforcement. I've been married for 20 years to my wife who homeschools, who, give her some credit. She just made the honor roll for accounting. So yeah. And 3 boys.
Great, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for your service too. And Brian, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm Brian Steiner. I have, I've been here almost all my life in Arizona. I'm a grandfather of 2, which is why I'm fighting. And probably like a lot of citizens, I have 3 part-time jobs. So I have a landscaping business. I'm a national referee, and my FJB job is testing nuclear gauges. So,
okay, I did not know that.
Yeah, that's what kept me afloat while government was shutting stuff down. So
wow, that's fantastic. Yeah. And Michael Schafer.
Yeah, thank you. I'm a business guy out of the Wharton Business School, same school Trump went to, and honors grad there, and I've been an entrepreneur ever since. I own a regulatory test lab that does certifications for wireless and electronic equipment for the Federal Communications Commission, Department of Homeland Security, and I am upset and angry about what I see going on in our country, and felt like I needed to step up and do something, and I invite others to think about doing that same thing these days.
So I think Michael hit the nail on the head, as they say. We're all very frustrated and angry about what has been happening in our state with our election integrity issues, and we all want to find different ways, like I said, to find ways that we can help solve them for the betterment of us, the citizens. So there is going to be a lot of data coming your way. They all have a little bit of the expertise of the process that they've been accomplishing together the last year and a half on their own time, volunteering their services to us to make it a better state. So try to listen, and like I said, a notepad and pencil would be handy. You might want to take some notes, or at least hit bookmark so you can watch this later. So Paul, let's just start out with some of the basic information, the lawsuit that you have been involved in, some of the steps to get where we are today, bring us up to speed with that, and then anything else relevant that you'd like to share.
Yeah, thank you, Noelle. So we could go back to right after the 2020 election, when the work of these great citizens started. These are just average Americans, and I think why we wanted to come here and talk was a few reasons, but one in particular was that we can do great things, and you don't need to be in politics necessarily to do that. As an American, as a patriot, you can make a difference. So the work of this group really started right after the election in February of 2020. That started with looking into the HAVA Act and the EAC, which was a commission established by HAVA through a congressionally passed act shortly after the 2000 election. I didn't join the group until about February of this year, but they had been actively involved, Daniel, Michael, and Brian here since way last year. and I'm just grateful to have to found these guys to
Now,
work with them.
let me stop you there. You mentioned HAVA. So I had heard about it. I worked the Arizona audit for 3 months. I volunteered. So I know some of the paper ballot side of things and hands-on in that respect. And I did hear words like HAVA used when we were there. But for everyone else, why don't you explain what that is?
So HAVA is an acronym for Help America Vote Act that was passed by Congress in 2002, I believe, signed by George Bush, which effectively gave the states options to electively participate in a set of election guidelines and procedures that were put together by the federal government through the EAC with very specific rules and procedures with the intent of hoping to minimize what happened with the Bush-Gore hanging Chad incident ever happening again. So really that was created to assist states in standardizing elections, becoming more efficient at that, as well as making sure that voters aren't disenfranchised and that every person's vote counts.
So it's basically the exact opposite of what they say Republicans are trying to do. It's actually trying to help the voters and give them positive tools and things that help them in their voting with election integrity and to uphold their rights. So I just want to put that clear because they say that, we do the opposite, right? Disenfranchise people and break the rules. So we're going to see how they have been helping these processes go forward and break it down a little bit where they're not just saying they're doing it, but they're going to actually show you how they've tried to start accomplishing these things.
Can I add on to that real
Please
quick?
do.
Just so you know, this isn't just this group right here. It was an effort throughout other states too, and more individuals who really worked hard. We have one individual that worked so hard. I mean, it was just unbelievable what she was able to do. And so I just want to give credit to those individuals who,
Sure.
they're going unnamed, but they're not.
Can we say the states that were involved?
So we've got multiple states we've talked to, but just throughout, within people around just all 50 states, people were getting involved.
I could
So
say
this was a
some
big effort.
there was a lot of help out of Washington State and Georgia and
South Carolina.
those are some of the main
Okay.
ones, main players at the beginning of this.
So
Even
I
Texas
did
helped.
not know that either. So I'm actually learning a lot of what we're going to hear tonight also. I know a little bit about it, but not the fine details that we're going to learn together. So as they're telling me, I might say I didn't know it, and I didn't, as you might not either. So then also, Brian, you have some things you're going to touch on. I want to give a brief overview so they kind of can know where we're going with this.
Well, so basically we have two labs here, and nationally that there's two labs that test and certify our machines here, and one is SLI compliance gaming, and then you have Pro V&B. And both of those laboratories lost their accreditation long ago, and speculation of why they lost it. But they lost it, and yet they were still certifying voting machines.
And long ago, a year, 5 years, 10 years?
So Pro V&B lost their accreditation in 2017.
Okay.
And
Several.
SLI Compliance Gaming, they lost theirs in really 2018.
Okay.
And even then, that's kind of suspect.
But both prior to the 2020 election.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I mean, we could get into the details later on some
Sure,
of their
yeah, I'm sure we
excuses
will.
and stuff.
Yeah.
But,
So basically, for those of us who believe that there was issues with the machines being used irregularly, inappropriately, illegally, that helps frame the situation as to why people are working to air these issues out publicly. These two supposed accredited organizations, companies,
Laboratories.
thank you,
Yeah.
laboratories, were not even accredited to the point of what some officials said they were and allowed them to certify, which Michael's going to tell us about here in a second, these results. So why don't you tell us about the certification?
Sure, let me talk a little bit about the process. So let me give you a simple example. If you were living with your girlfriend and you wanted to get married, and you went to your neighbor who wasn't a priest or a pastor or sort of, a chaplain, and had no ability, no accreditation to marry you, and the two of you got married by someone who couldn't officiate a wedding, would you be married or not married? So
So the answer to that is you're not. It would be void.
Legally,
It
in
would
the
be-
eyes of the
That's right.
state.
That's correct. It's legal marriage. So that's the essence here. So a test lab has a requirement to become accredited. So in this case, these labs get accredited to a standard called ISO 17025, and that's a primary requirement. And then they are approved, if they have that in place, by the EAC, and it's the EAC for purposes of elections that provides them their accreditation, but that's the basis for it. My lab is accredited to ISO 17025, and I've been doing these accreditations now for almost 20 years, and it's a very rigorous process, and then that's the platform, and then they need to be approved by the FCC.
But it's electronic, and if we know anything about electronics, according to the Pentagon, they got hacked. So if they can get hacked, I suppose anybody can get hacked. Is kind of how I think of it. I mean, simplified again, you know.
Yeah, and so the hacking, I think they've evolved over time. So the methodologies that they might have used early on in the process have become perfected over time.
So it's just teeny
And
changes.
so in the past, it's likely that, hackers needed to get in to make adjustments. And now the machines can be designed to predict the outcome in advance as to how many votes you're going to get and how many votes you're going to get and how many votes. And we want you to be the winner. So you're going to come in second, you're going to come in third. Put any vote you want into
Right.
it, and we're going to come out with the results that we want.
So if we don't fix the machines,
We're done.
okay.